Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Nomad, The World is My Beat. I'm journalist Lisa Foreman, and I'm taking you around the world with me in my suitcase. In today's edition, I want to talk to you about something truly special that just wrapped up in Paris. It's the second edition of Danse la Lumière, or Dance in the Light. It was a 3-month dance festival at the EDF Foundation, which ran from November 4th, 2025 through to January the 21st, 2026, and brought together two powerful art forms, contemporary dance and light-based art installations. The EDF Foundation created something quite unique with this season. They structured each evening into two distinct parts. The first part featured performances curated by choreographer Saïdo Lehlouh, and this choice of curator was significant. Lehlouh is somebody I refer to as the Wizard of Underground Dance, and he succeeded in bringing many underground dance forms onto the major stages in Paris and all around France. Lehlouh is a member of the Faire E collective. He's co-director of this National Choreographic Center of Rennes and Brittany, and an associated artist at the Théâtre de la Ville in Paris and at La Créterie, the national stage in Arles. But perhaps more importantly for understanding this season, Lehlouh made headlines during the Paris Cultural Olympiad in 2024. The New York Times covered his groundbreaking work Apaches, which was performed at the Palais Garnier, the opera house that's traditionally been the haloed home of classical ballet. The Times article asked a provocative question: what if all dance forms were considered equal? For his version of Apaches, Lehlouh opened up the Foyer de la Danse, the gilded salon where ballet dancers traditionally warm up, a space the public usually never sees. He mixed classical dancers from the Paris Opera Ballet with dancers from the National Choreographic Center of Rennes and Brittany. The performance brought together hip-hop, crump, electro, waacking, and even flamenco alongside classical ballet. Hip-hop, crump, electro, and waacking are street and club dances, and most people that practice them, or at least from the original generations, are self-taught dancers. As the Times put it, this production made a gorgeous statement about hierarchy in dance. This was exactly the vision Lehlouh brought to the EDF Foundation season. He chose to spotlight what he calls dances of the margin, dance forms that emerged from communities often pushed to society's edges, forms that became spaces of resistance, reinvention and freedom. As Lehlouh wrote in his curatorial statement, "Our dances are multiple. Our dances don't lie. They remind us in the clarity of a gesture of the richness of a plural and living society. They speak of the world with raw truth, with the urgency to open spaces where art is no longer just window dressing, but a vector of encounters, transformations and shared reflections." Lehlouh chose artists who carry what he called intense, demanding and burning dances, rooted in reality yet open to all possibilities, dances that carry a discreet but tenacious political force, a language that has always offered marginalised artists a space to exist, reinvent themselves and resist the frameworks that are assigned to them. The second part of each evening at this 3-month festival, and by the way, what happened was that EDF programmed a different combination of dancers to run every 2 weeks for each Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday night. So the second part of each evening, the second performance of the evening, showcased choreographers who work with light as they work with bodies. This wasn't just about lighting design in the traditional sense. It was about light as a material of inspiration, creation, and movement itself. I was lucky enough to attend the opening night where flamenco met hip-hop. The season opened on November 4th with something unexpected. Israel Galván, a major figure in contemporary flamenco, in dialogue with Mathias Rassin, known as Tyas, a pioneer of the international hip-hop scene. These are two worlds that seem opposed, yet together they delivered an intense and unexpected duet where contrasting styles interwove in a physical conversation full of tension, complicity and freedom before, in fact, Mathias collapsed on the stage. Like many people, I did not realise was not part of the production. He went to hospital. He had something wrong with his ankle. He's okay. Galván was born in 1973 in Seville into a family of bailadores and has revolutionised flamenco by mixing tradition with audacity. Meanwhile, Tyas discovered hip-hop at age 9 and shaped his art on concrete streets and schoolyards. The piece they created together was called Entre les deux 102, Between the Two 102, and it represented exactly what this season was about, breaking down barriers and creating new dialogues. Next up was Mounia herself. Mounia Nassangar is an icon of Waacking dance, and she's who introduced me to the festival and the whole reason why I went along. Waacking is a dance form that was created in the gay clubs in the 1970s. It uses a lot of rotating, flying arms, initially performed to disco, but is now performed to R&B, hip-hop, salsa, you name it. So later in November, Mounia and a Hong Kong Waacking dancer called Panda Waack performed Mounia's new dance piece called No Meaning, Just Cheering. And Nassangar's presence here was particularly significant. She was one of the standout performers in Lehloux's Apaches at the Palais Garnier. The New York Times specifically highlighted her performance, noting there were sharp, striking solo moments, as when Mounia Nassangar, a Waacking virtuoso, used her arms to slice the air with such razor precision and supple dexterity that you half expected her to lift off. Nassangar became the first black woman to win a major dance prize in France in 2024 called Danse, and she is without question France's busiest female dancer. She doesn't have a day of downtime. She is constantly performing, teaching, doing battles, opening festivals and moving between Europe and Asia. She's in huge demand. She's also predominantly a major figure in the Waacking world in France and internationally. She's a choreographer, dancer, actress, model, DJ, producer and director of her own production company, Nassangar. She was revealed to wider audiences in 2018 in Jean-Paul Gaultier's Fashion Freak Show and Gaspar Noé's Cannes film Climax. She's also choreographed for major artists like Aya Nakamura and Travis Scott. For this EDF Foundation season, Nassangar teamed up with Lao Sin Yi, known as Panda Waack, a dancer and choreographer from Hong Kong, now based in Barcelona, who's also a major force in the international Waacking scene. Together they played with the codes of rhythm and tempo, making beats, whether fast or slow, into material for intensity, silence and sharing. Their piece embodied the title No Meaning, Just Cheering. It was a revindication of dance that's free, without justification, where gesture and music unite in the instant. Both of these first two acts were paired with dancer Russell Malefant. So in the second part of several of these evenings, this British choreographer presented a piece called Inner Landscape, a 30-minute solo making its French premiere. Maléfant trained at the Royal Ballet School in England and has been collaborating closely with lighting designer Michael Holes since 1994, evolving towards a new language where movement and light are intimately linked. Maléfant described his creative process for the piece. We explored how various textiles and fabrics could metamorphose under the effect of light and in their interaction with movement. By changing what's highlighted, the direction and intensity, lighting became an active partner to the dancer, shaping atmosphere and guiding our perception. This wasn't light simply illuminating dance. It was light dancing alongside the dancer, creating what he called an immersive and hypnotic state of silent suspension and contemplation. For another performance by Hervé Coubet, it could best be summed up as personal history meets universal themes. So Hervé Coubet's Ce que le jour doit à la nuit, What the Day Owes to the Night, was an hour-long piece featuring 14 dancers. Courbet organised an audition in Algiers in 2009 for what became this creation in 2013. Like the young boy in Yasmin Khadra's novel of the same name, passed from one family to another, Courbet set out to explore his own history, which intersects with history with a capital H. As he explained, it's like an Orientalist from the 19th century who came to Algeria to bring his dreams of the Orient to life. I wanted to bring to life my childhood dreams, born in France, who only discovers late his true origins and those of his two parents, Algerian by birth. Most of the dancers came from street dance and hip-hop, bringing necessary energy to this long-term project made of encounters and custom work with each performer. The performance was nourished by Orientalist paintings and the stone lacework of Islamic architecture. The lighting was created by Lionel Bozzoni, who's collaborated with Courbet for over 20 years. The light became a metaphor for revelation, from secret to evidence, from confinement to liberation. It was never simply decor. Complementing the performances was an exhibition of contemporary art featuring artists who have collaborated with contemporary choreographers. This opened a new chapter from the previous 2 seasons of this festival by presenting visual artists who've worked in dance contexts. One highlight was work by Adalberto Meccarelli, who passed away in 2022. Born in Italy, Meccarelli first worked with solid materials like bronze and marble before turning to light, what he called invisible matter that makes the world visible. For a 1985 production of Shakespeare's Hamlet at the Théâtre de la Bastille, he created scenography with geometric forms that changed with plays of shadow and light. There was also François Morelet's Lunatic Neonly, a series begun in 1996 featuring blue neon arranged in semicircles that appear to follow a disordered, capricious rhythm. The exhibition included video documentation of Andy de Groot's 1986 piece Route de Louis-Juzon, created in collaboration with Morelet at the Centre Pompidou. What was particularly impressive about this season was the EDF Foundation's commitment to accessibility and engagement. They structured the programming specifically for school groups and community organisations, integrating free slots for guided visits, performances and meetings with choreographers and dancers. All performances were free for anyone under 25. There was a real philosophy here about dance as a liberating practice for body and spirit, something that contributes to self-confidence and invites sharing of passions and practices. This commitment echoed what Lehlouh achieved with Apaches at the Palais Garnier. As the New York Times noted, the performance brought varieties of technical expertise together and made a gorgeous statement about the hierarchy in dance. The Times observed how direct, purposeful walks across the stage Swirled into circles or ciphers in one breathtaking moment, 3 happened at once. The article highlighted how Lehlouh demonstrated that battles are conversations between dancers, not competitions for dominance, but dialogue of mutual respect and creativity. And indeed, EDF featured 2 battles as part of the 3-month festival on Saturdays, and I was lucky enough to see the one featuring hip-hop and electro dancers on January 7th. On January 31st, at the end of the season, the audience got to see dancers from Lycée Turgot, which has had a hip-hop sports section since 2016. The same evening concluded with an engaged soiree, a DJ or collective performance for a cause, with all tickets proceeds going to the chosen association. Dancing became an engaged act. So this season proved that dance is much more than an art of movement. It's an act of presence, resistance and light. It's what Lehlouh meant when he wrote that these dancers carry a discreet but tenacious political force, a language that has always offered marginalised artists a space to exist, reinvent themselves and resist the frameworks that are assigned to them. If you were moved by what Lehlouh accomplished at the Palais Garnier last summer, if you were inspired by that vision of dance democracy where all forms are considered equal, then this EDF season offered audiences the chance to experience that vision in depth over 3 months across multiple evenings and events. Personally, I got to see many of the performance over 3 months, and I got to learn about dances that I didn't know existed, forms of dance I'd never seen before. I found myself thinking how wonderful it was that these self-taught dancers, in my mind, had equal technical and brilliant dance ability to any ballerina on any stage. And I think that's what this kind of programming is about. It's also the kind of programming that shows what's possible when cultural institutions commit not just to diversity as a talking point, but to genuinely platforming artists from marginalised communities and making their work accessible to everyone. Now, Mounia Nassangar has shared some of her own story with me, and she started choreographing in her bedroom when she was 6 in one of Paris's most humble suburbs, and I take my hat off to her for making it all the way to the heart of the Parisian dance world and beyond internationally, and to Saïdo Lehlouh for all the work he's done to help these dancers to get where they've got, and to EDF for absolutely giving them that stage to take the vision beyond the Cultural Olympics and present a brilliant 3-month dedicated festival combining these underground dancers with top talent. Thank you for watching.